Hello, Young and Freers. I'm here at the Bowness branch with branch manager Mira, and she's going to talk to us today a little bit about mortgages. How are you doing today?
Great, how are you?
I'm doing just lovely because I'm here in Bowness. I've never been to this part of Calgary before. I lived here all my life. Can you explain in a nutshell what the mortgage campaign is all about?
Well, what it is, it's just basically a campaign to promote mortgages with service, but also to let individuals out there know that your mortgage can do so much more for you. It's about profit sharing and knowing that from your mortgage, the profit sharing can actually help you in regards to savings or even starting an RSP or contributing to your RSPs. So bring that awareness about credit unions and profit sharing.
What is the first step that a first-time home buyer should take if they're looking at getting into a new home?
So one of the first steps is probably to come to your local credit union and sit down with a financial planner or advisor and work out a budgeting plan. So usually, even with second-time home buyers, we usually sit down and make sure that they understand the costs of a home or a condo or a townhouse, making sure that they understand it's not just mortgage payments, but there's also other implications such as taxes and utilities, things that they might not be aware of since being a rental or moving from a condo to a home. There's other expenses that are incurred. So we just want to make sure that they understand what they're getting into and that they can afford and feel comfortable with what they're planning on buying before we send them on their way to actually go and buy their house.
What would you say is the best part about owning a home?
Oh, well, definitely that freedom to do whatever you want. Being able just to know that those walls are yours and no one can come in there and take that away. And it's also sort of that next step in life. It actually makes you feel like you're progressing towards something. One other thing is that knowing the way that the markets are right now, people say that real estate is actually one of the best investments that you could actually make in your life.
I'm a big fan of painting the walls whatever color I want. No landlord to answer to.
Exactly.
So what's the difference between a fixed and variable rate mortgage?
Well, depending on which financial institution you go to, because their terminologies are different. Now, when you talk about fixed versus variable with Service Credit Union, it's in regards to your rate. A fixed means that your rate is set for whatever term you choose. So if you chose a 5-year term, your rate is set for 5 years. Whereas on a variable rate will fluctuate depending on how it's set. And it's usually set based on what the prime rate is set at. So as prime fluctuates, your rate could fluctuate as well, and also based on your financial institution, it'll depend on when they adjust it. Sometimes if prime changes mid-month, they don't change your rate until the end of the month. Or sometimes some financial institutions actually adjust your rate weekly, depending on what prime's set at. So with Service Credit Union, variable rate just means that your rate fluctuates, and depending what type of variable rate product you choose will depend on how it'll fluctuate.
For a young person who's buying their first home, do you think it's better to go fixed or variable, or is it difficult to paint everyone with one brush?
I think that's exactly it. It's very difficult to paint everyone with one brush. The main questions that your financial advisor will ask is, what is your future plans? So if this is going to be the stepping stone and you know within a year or so you're planning to get promoted and dreams are moving to Toronto, then we wouldn't looking at fixing you into a rate that's longer than your plans. Some individuals know that this is the house that they plan on staying in and growing old in. So again, it's about understanding your needs and your future desires to determine the right product for you.
For someone who's never purchased a home, the steps in purchasing a home might be really confusing. You might not know where to start. So what would be the basic steps that you have to go through in buying a home before that home is yours and you're moving your couch in?
Well, it definitely is one of the most stressful and most happiest times of your life, regardless of what stage of your life you're in. Being a first-time home buyer or someone who's buying their third or fourth home can get pretty stressful. But it's just sort of breaking down the steps, what to look forward to. Usually the first step is ideally to make sure that you know what price range you're looking for and what you can afford and what you're comfortable with. The next step is finding a good realtor who understands your needs, understands the area that you might be looking at. Like in the area of Calgary, it's so vast. So you want to make sure that you have a realtor that's specific to the areas that you're looking at. From there, usually you put in an offer with some conditions, and then you come back to your financial institution and you speak with your financial advisor, and we work through the steps in regards to all the paperwork. You don't really have to do much more than understand the products and services that we're offering, sign on the line, then see your lawyer in regards to signing more papers, and then usually you sit back and you wait for your closing date. And from there, all the money is handled from your financial institution to the lawyer. You're not in charge of having to run from one bank to another bank to get drafts or anything along that lines. That seems to be one of the misconceptions in regards to buying a house, how they think that they're in charge of having to do the funding, but none of that's actually in your hands. You sit back and you relax, and your lawyer and your financial institution handles it all.
Now, suppose I were to come in. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have a realtor. I don't know where to get a lawyer. I mean, I could go through the yellow pages and find the cheapest one, but that's probably not the best way to go. If a young person came in, could they get recommendations of good lawyers and realtors from their Service Credit Union rep?
Absolutely, and it actually makes the process a little easier knowing that there's lawyers that have dealt with Service Credit Union because they're familiar with our paperwork, because every financial institution has different sort of paperwork as well. It makes the process a little smoother as well, less stressful for the individual, less stressful for the financial institution as well. So we definitely have recommendations. We have recommendations on realtors that we know, appraisers, inspectors as well. So we do have the options to give to our members as well.
All right, I don't want us to play favorites, but if you had to buy a house in Calgary right now, what's the best neighborhood?
Bowness.
Of course, she has to say that. Thanks for watching.